Greetings to bringing Jesus back into focus. I left the Jewish Christian Catholic Church when I was about 17, so it's about 61 years ago, because they were teaching that Yahweh, the Old Testament Jewish God, was the same divine source of love and non-violence that Jesus was obviously at one with. Through his life, through his teachings, you could clearly see that. I always saw his words. I was never really interested in the Jewish religion. I even wondered why they bothered with that. And the book of Revelation, well, if you want the cryptic crossword of a lifetime, have a look at it. You can waste years of your life looking at that material. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to quickly help you understand one simple fact and a couple of others, which will help you if you're a Christian and you're confused about Yahweh, the Jewish Yahweh God, and Jesus and his God. It's a very simple problem, and you only need to understand one truth. That truth is, the God of the Jews is a different God to the God of Jesus. The divine loving source that Jesus was at one with doesn't go to war or kill or commit genocide at Jericho and all these other things that Yahweh does. But the thing about Yahweh is this: it does have one. It's a monotheistic one body. It's true to say Yahweh has one body, mono, but it has two heads. A brutal, violent war god, same as the Roman war god Mars, the Greek god Ares, and the Egyptian war gods. The Jews had a war god. When they went to war, they went to the temple of Yahweh, not Mars. They called the war god Yahweh. Then they'd pray to Yahweh for strength, and they'd go off to Jericho, for example, in the book of Joshua, kill every man, woman and child, steal the gold, silver and brass, take it back to the temple of Yahweh, the war god Yahweh, burn the place to the ground and steal all the land, and celebrate how Yahweh gave them Jericho. That's a war god. The Romans had a war god. Greeks, Egyptians, everyone had a war god, and so did the Jews. It's called Yahweh. But then, when you look at Leviticus, there's another god in Leviticus in the Jewish religion, a complete opposite god to that god. It's the god of love, Yahweh. Also called Yahweh. In Leviticus, the closest line, probably one of the closest lines to Jesus' enlightenment, understanding of the oneness of divine love. In Leviticus it says, if a foreigner is amongst you, do him no harm, and treat him as a native, and love him as yourself. Now, in today's language, that would mean, if a Palestinian is amongst you, do them no harm, and treat them as a Jew, and love them as yourself. Now that's in Leviticus. That's Jesus would teach that. He teaches that. Buddha teaches that. But the Jews have got another teaching, another God. They didn't call the war god Mars and the god of love Yahweh, or vice versa. Yahweh, the god of war, and the loving God, call that the god of love, or Pax, like the Romans had Pax for the peace god. They chose to be very cunning, and they simply said, we'll call both these opposing gods, the violent, brutal, killing, murdering, thieving, lying war god, Satan, that sort of thing. All war gods are satanic. We'll call that god Yahweh. But let's call our God of love Yahweh too. That way we can kill and murder and steal and love. Sorry, schizophrenic crack up. Two-faced religion, very sorry. Jewish rabbis, I need some good Jewish rabbis to start ripping out all the references to the war god in your religion. All Christians have to cut the Bible in two and cut that Jewish religion out, the Old Testament. Jesus said, whatever you do, don't mix the new wine into the old wineskin. It'll burst the wineskin apart because the old wine can't take this. This is only love. When you look at the Bible, it's one wineskin. Old wine, new wine, one wineskin. So the poison of the Jewish Yahweh war god has poisoned the understanding of Jesus and the loving Creator. So if you've left the Christian churches, and many have now because of this problem, the people are too intelligent now for the churches to get away with this lie any further. All Jewish Christian churches teach this lie, that there's one God in the Bible. That's rubbish. I knew that at the age of 17, and I've met a lot of people who've left because of that same lie. They just need to get over that. Get rid of the Jewish religion from Jesus and cut the book of Revelation out. So if you've got that one fact, there are two gods in the Old Testament, not one. There's one God with Jesus. But his words have also been a little altered here and there in the Gospels, but there's enough of his core teachings. His description of God is this: God's love is like the sun that rises on the good and on the evil. God's love is like the rain that falls on the just and the unjust. Unless your love is as perfect as this love, you're not going to heaven. How many Christians have gone to war now since Constantine 312 AD went to war in the name of Jesus and corrupted the church leaders, who then caved in and converted everyone back to being Jewish Christians? So just remember that. Stay with Jesus. His words are beautiful, and so are Buddha's. It's the oneness of love that he was at one with, the clear light mind of love. So I'll just show you here some of the way the Judeo-Christian entanglement occurred. If you understand that one fact, the Jews worship two different gods. They lie about it. They say it's one God. It's a lie. It's a fabrication. If you want to call it a misunderstanding, well, that's a bit hard to believe. You only got to read Jericho, what they did there. There's no love in that. There's no God of love in that. And yet Jesus says God is perfect love, even loves the evil children who are lost in the darkness to try to bring them out of darkness, and loves those who are full of light. God loves both. I was born into the Jewish Christian Catholic Church in 1957. So this is the entanglement. This is some of the main points as to why it's all messed up. So if you're a Christian, just forget about the Jewish religion for a while. Just look at his words. Rip out the book of Revelation and burn it. By the age of 16 or 17, I realized the Old Testament Yahweh was not the divine source of one perfect love that Jesus was at one with. So I left the Jewish Christian Catholic Church, but took Jesus and his beautiful spiritual way and teachings of love and non-violence with me. I then went across to study Buddha's teachings, as he was a pacifist, just as Jesus originally was, and though 400 to 500 years apart, their spiritual teachings echoed the same spiritual truth. We are all children of a divine source of perfect love and spiritual life, empowered only by a loving spiritual life force. We all have two bodies or forms with us right now. Our temporary earthly body of material flesh and an eternal spiritual body, as Jesus explained, or a mind or consciousness that is eternal, as Buddha explained. Different terms for the same thing, and they both taught we will all reap as we sow in our next life, or karmic consequences will arise, as they both taught, depending on our present actions, words, and thoughts. They were both spiritually enlightened children of the same source of divine love. The Buddhists say Buddha had a clear light mind experience. All negativities were removed, all dirt, all filth from his mind. Jesus says it in a different way. It's not the dirt on the outside of your body that's the problem. It's the dirt inside the cup. You've got to wash that dirt out, and then, if your eye is single, your whole mind will be filled with light. Your whole body, your whole being, you'll be a being of light and love. You can't love and murder and kill. I'm sorry. Sorry, all you Jewish Christians and Jews and everyone else doing that. So Buddha's singular spiritual way developed out of the plural Hindu spiritual tradition, and the singular spiritual way of Jesus from the plural Jewish spiritual tradition. Plural, not monotheistic. It's a dualistic religion. Get it into your heads. The Jewish religion is a dualistic religion. It's never been monotheistic, perhaps long ago, but it's dualistic. And it's affecting and poisoning the teachings of Jesus. It's only love with Jesus, not in the Old Testament. They've got to change it. They've got to catch up. They've got to wake up. So this one fact that the Jewish God Yahweh is a dualistic God is why Jesus and his singular spiritual way of love and non-violence got tangled up in and distorted by the dualistic Yahweh God of the Jews. Once you realize there are two different opposing Godheads, both called Yahweh in the Old Testament, then it's easy to untangle Jesus and his spiritual singular way of love and non-violence from the Jewish overlays that have been wrongly put onto him by the Jewish Christian churches. They're Jewish and Christian. Sorry, you can't be both. Sorry. One or the other. At the time of Jesus, most religions had a god of war and peace. The Greeks had Ares as their brutal war god, plundering and killing, and Irene as their god of peace. The Romans had Mars as their brutal war god and Pax as their god of peace. But because they were opposing forces, one being a dark force of death and destruction, and the other a force of light and life and peace, they each had a separate temple where they could go to offer sacrifices before making war or peace. Separate temples, separate gods, different gods, opposing energies. The Jews thought they could have it both ways by simply combining the two opposite gods by the same name, Yahweh, which created a two-faced religion or Godhead. One body called Yahweh, which formed a monotheistic ruse with two heads, one of war and peace, which turned it into a dualistic religion disguised as monotheistic. Jesus simply cut the Godhead of War off the body of Yahweh, leaving only the Godhead of love and peace, and took it to its ultimate spiritual realization of being at one with only love and non-violence. That's heaven on earth, and that is heaven, love and non-violence. You're not going to get into heaven if you're violent and murdering and killing. You'll be somewhere else. Jesus warned all the followers of his spiritual way of love and non-violence to never mix this divine source of love with the dualistic two-headed God Yahweh. Jesus said, "No man pours new wine into an old wineskin, for it cannot contain the new wine and will burst apart, and he will lose the new wine. And no one tears a piece of cloth from a new garment and tries to place it onto an old garment, because they do not match. The new with the old, and the new will lift off from the old, and the schism between the two will be made worse." That's the Jewish Christian religion. It's messed up. The Bible is one book with one wineskin wrapped around it, but it contains the new wine of Jesus and the loving spiritual creator, and the old wine of the Jewish two-headed God Yahweh together in one wineskin, causing massive confusion and distortions about who Jesus was, the divine loving creator, and his spiritual teachings and way of peace and love. Jesus warned them not to do this, but all modern Judeo-Christian churches do it, and they need to stop doing so right now, today. Have a meeting about it. You know, just look at the obvious black and white print. You know, a 12-year-old could do it. These are some other points that entangled Jesus and the source of divine love in the Jewish dualistic religion and distorted his spiritual teachings and way of love and non-violence. So these are the other main points that cause all the distortions, which will help you clarify who Jesus really is. And the Jewish religion's another religion. Just cut it away. Put it up on the shelf. Get away from it for a while. So these are the things that went wrong. All early Christians were pacifists, as Jesus himself taught them to be. In 312 AD, Constantine went into battle with his rival to become Emperor of Rome. Prior to the battle, Constantine said he saw a sign in the sky or a dream of Jesus, and took it as an omen for him to place the sign of Jesus on his soldiers' shields before the battle. He went into battle, defeating his rival, and it became the first account of anyone killing in the name of Jesus. He did it the first time. I killed, inspired by Jesus, murdered. He soon stopped all persecution of Christians, and by 380 AD, Rome had converted to Christianity. But the Christian leaders caved in to the secular demand of Rome and allowed all soldiers to be Christians, even though they were killing others in war. This meant all Christians were now converted back into worshipping the two-headed God Yahweh of the Jews again, instead of the one true divine source of love that Jesus leads us all to. See how that happened? That's simple. Suddenly Christians could go to war and kill again. Well, that means you condemn. What did Jesus say? Condemn not, or you'll be condemned. Love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. This single thing, the pacifist message, which is a divine spiritual link to heaven for you and me. The body's going to die anyway. There's no point killing anyone. Everyone's body dies. But who goes to heaven? Only those filled with love go. Those who do the killing and hating and murdering and stealing, they can't get in. Only then do they undergo what I call the burning realizations of hell, of what they've done. But that's another story. This is about the destruction of Jesus' teachings, the entanglement with the Jewish religion. That's the problem. The Jewish religion is the problem. Get out of it. Leave it alone. I say to people, don't go swimming in that Jewish billabong. There's a snake in it. You'll get bitten. Once you're bitten, that's it. You've lost the understanding. As Jesus said here, put new wine into that old wine religion, bang, it can't hold it. You're going to lose the understanding of love, divine love, pure love, only love, the oneness, the singular eye of love. And you'll be back in the duality of the Jews. We don't have to talk about what the Jews are doing, do we? We can all see that. Gaza and West Bank. Gaza is almost Jericho all over again. So we've got, as Jesus said, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who persecute you, do good to them. And if someone slaps you on one cheek, turn the other to him also, that you may be spiritual children of the divine loving Creator. The pacifist teaching of Jesus was destroyed and has yet to be reinstated by all the mainstream Jewish Christian churches. They are now all worshipping the two-headed God Yahweh without even realizing it. Of course, there are Assyrian Christians, the Amish, Quakers. They're pacifists. I'm a pacifist, but we're only a small number now. But they also are caught up in the Jewish religion to some extent as well, and they shouldn't. They've got to be very careful. The second problem arose in the entanglement. Around 325 AD, the Christian leaders held a meeting at Nicaea to determine how to present the spiritual teachings and way of Jesus to followers as differences were growing amongst the various Christian groups. They destroyed one of the main aspects of the teachings that Jesus gave by saying that everyone had to teach that only Jesus was a child of God and no one else could ever be like him. Jesus taught we can all equally be children of the loving spiritual Creator and even said, "He who believes in my way, the works that I do, he will do also, and even greater than these things he will do." We're all the same once we wake up like Jesus did. We're all brothers and sisters and children of the divine loving spiritual Creator. He's not the only one. That'd be the last thing he'd want. No one's allowed to be like him. He wants everyone to be just like him, an awoken child. I'm not Jesus, and he's not Christopher, and I'm not Anne, and Anne's not Mary. We have an individual, unique way to express the divine love. That's beautiful. That's like music when you have variations on a theme. The initial melody's written in theme, and then a composer will do a variation on a theme, variation on a theme. The melody's still in there, but slightly different. That's how it is for each one of us. We can all each express love in this world in a slightly different way. That's the beautiful thing about love. It's infinite in its manifestations. But brutality, war and evil, all black, all dark, all the same. Suffering, death, murder, all the rest of it. Stealing, that's nothing. There's no life there. It's all death. Life is in the spirit. I think Jesus mentioned that. So that's the story. So this perversion of the teachings plants a subliminal message that can prevent us fully awakening to our spiritual potential, which is what Jesus actually wanted us all to do. It's a subliminal message. Oh, no one can be like Jesus. Oh, he was perfect from birth. He didn't even have to worry about temptations or anything. He was great. He didn't. He was straight from heaven, straight from God. He was God. In fact, some say he was God, and he was sort of a man as well, and a boy and a baby, and he's God as well, and he's perfect, perfect, perfect. No, we've even got the account of Jesus being tempted. He was tempted. He was tempted. It's written there. I was tempted, he's saying, like everyone. But he later on says, but I overcame the temptations. I overcame the material world. I overcame it, he said. What he's saying is I had to work at it, but I overcame it. It's written there. He even says it. I overcame it, and so can you. And I'll explain to you how to overcome it, how to overcome the satanic or evil thoughts, etc. I'll explain to you how to do it because I managed to do it. And he was guided from heaven, for sure he was guided, but he had to overcome it. He said so himself. And Buddha had the exact same dynamic. Sitting under the tree, he was attacked by Mara with all these temptations, but he overcame all the temptations, and then he had the clear light mind experience under the Buddha tree, under the Bodhi tree. Jesus, the same thing in the wilderness, Buddha in nature, back into creation, just to be in solitude with the divine and think about the divine, how beautiful the divine must be, eventually when you're guided. So Jesus guides us with his words. So here we are in 325 AD, and they decide to make him absolutely in the ivory tower, so high above us all, none of us can ever be like him. Well, that immediately gives you the wrong message that Jesus wants you to have. You can be just like me, he said. Exactly like me. You'll have a different name, different personality to express the love, but we'll be the same. We'll be exactly the same equal child of this divine loving one. She or he, whatever you want to call he or she, I say she, because women tend to be less violent than males. And women give birth, so she creates. Creation comes through the female in the world. So she is beautiful, and once you get to understand this, that you're her child and I'm her child and so is everyone, and the person who's fallen down into sin and the evil children, they are still her children, but they've gone into a dark identity, false identity, fake. Murderers, warmongers, all the rest of it. That's a fake identity, false. It's based on the flesh. All flesh dies, rots and stinks. Only the spirit has true life, which lives on after death. They've gone into another figure that has no identity, true identity in the sense of spiritual identity. So here, Jesus has been, put up so far away from all of us, we can never ever be like him. The only benefit, you might say, is that everyone thinks he's so perfect, but he was enlightened. He was eventually perfect, and you can be too. He says this. I've overcome the world, so can you. The idea is we strive to understand how he became a spiritual child of love by studying his words. And I've got to forgive. Peter says, how many times should I forgive, Jesus? Like 7 times? If someone hurts me? Seems like a lot to me, Jesus. And Jesus goes, no, Peter, you don't get it. 7 times 70, infinite. You become forgiveness. You become love. You become a spiritual child. You forgive everyone, because the only reason they've hurt you is because they're lost. They don't know who they are. They are lost. They're lost in a figment of their own imagination. I'm Vladimir Putin. Oh, I'm Hamas. I'm Netanyahu. I'm Adolf Hitler. They're figments of their own imagination. They're not even real. They're a lie unto themselves. So Jesus is beautiful in the way he really wants us to also wake up and actually be his brother or sister, however you want to term it, but be absolutely just like him, have the same experience, the same connection to God that he had, the divine loving one. You can have it too because he said so. And not only said that, he said, you can do even greater things than I'm doing because you're on his shoulders now, so you can stand on his shoulders and have an even better experience. But they've cut into it, they've distorted it and perverted it with all these entanglements. And it's mostly to do with the Jewish religion, but also some other perversions that came in, like this Nicaea one. So number 3, then they decided to present Jesus as a sacrificial lamb who died on the cross, and only his blood on the cross can cleanse us of all sin to save our lives. Otherwise, we will be cut off from the heavenly spiritual world of love. So unless you believe if you don't believe his blood cleanses you of all your sins, then you'll never be saved. Now, Jesus never actually said that, except there's one account in Matthew. And we'll talk about Matthew a little later. This is a Jewish overlay put onto Jesus from an old Jewish tradition of animal sacrifice of a lamb or cow to cleanse themselves of sin. It's a way of expressing how Jesus helps to save you, sort of thing. But it's not his blood. In the 5 Gospels, which includes Thomas, Jesus actually states, this is what he tells you will save you. Jesus says this 17 times. 17 times he tells everyone in the world, I'm going to tell you what is going to save you. And he says, he actually states 17 times that it is his words that will save you. Jesus said, he who hears my words and understands them, there's the key, and understands them, will not taste death. If you understand what he's saying, you'll become spiritual because you'll practice what he said to do. You'll clean the inside of the cup out, or your mind, and all that duality stuff. That'll be gone, along with the Jewish religion. Throw that out. It's a dualistic religion. It's dangerous. Love is there, but you got to know Jesus first, or Buddha, before you look at that religion. So there he says, 17 times you can find it, where he says that in one way or another. Someone who hears my words and understands them is like a man who built a house on a rock, and the entire, evil of the world couldn't overcome him because he built his house on my words, the rock. Christians should know that parable. But the person who doesn't build his house on my words, that's to say if he built it on my blood or some other idiotic idea, that man is like a man who built his house on sand. He didn't build it on my words, my instructions, how to be spiritual, love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you. It's all in his words, the parables, the teachings. Anything about love in those teachings, that's it. Anything that goes away from that, that's a distortion that's been placed in there. It's easy to see if you know Jesus, but if you don't know Jesus, and you're confused with the Jewish Yahweh, two-headed God, you'll be mixing the new wine with the old wine, and you'll never taste the new wine by itself, and you'll be confused. So that's the incredible, interesting thing. So 17 times he tells everyone, my words, my words, my words, my words. So he says, and he who builds his life on my words cannot be overcome by anything in this material world. To paraphrase it, to shorten it down, there is only one reference to Jesus supposedly saying his blood cleans our sins away, which is in Matthew at the Last Supper. There may be another one, but it's pretty rare. There's only the one in Matthew, I think, and there's a reason why Matthew's got this added in. It's an addition. But Matthew most likely added the ending himself. Jesus said, this is my blood of the new covenant. New covenant. Now that word's mistaught as well. This is my blood of the new covenant, which is poured out for many. Now that's what Jesus would have said, full stop. Matthew added, for the forgiveness of sins. Jesus never said that. What he said was, this is my blood of the new covenant, which is poured out for many. The proper meaning of the Greek word covenant means disposition, a new disposition, which is defined as the natural qualities of a person's character. Jesus had 2 bodies in one, both fully alive. The new spiritual body, after he underwent his spiritual awakening, possessed all the new, loving, non-violent qualities or characteristics. That's the new covenant. He realized we've all got a spiritual body that can't die, but it's only powered by love. That's what he's saying about the cross. His body of flesh and blood died, and it released his spiritual body, which is how he appeared briefly to the disciples after his body of flesh died, in his spiritual body. This is what he meant by letting them kill his body of blood, spilling his blood out, so many can understand we all have two different bodies with us right now. We can't see our spiritual body. People like him and Buddha, they realized it, they experienced it. And you can, and I can, and that's what the teachings are all about. That's what Buddhist monks aim for, this clear light mind. That's what true followers of Jesus aim for, the undisturbed clear light mind of peace and love. And you become a spiritual child on earth until your body dies. So that's what he's saying. This is my blood of the new covenant. I'm going to let them kill my body of the flesh, which has its own character, its own DNA sort of personality and things, and it's limited and temporary, and it always dies anyway. So this is my blood of the new covenant, the new disposition. Your spiritual identity is a new character. Your physical identity is dualistic. As we can see, there are people who are saints and people who are murderers. Same body, same brain. It's capable and vulnerable, the human body and the brain, chemically and otherwise, to poisonous thoughts, to go and kill. It's dualistic. But your spiritual body, with its characteristics of love and only love, that's the new covenant. You've got a spiritual body. That's what Jesus was saying. You've got a new body, a new disposition. You've got a new character inside you waiting to sort of break out, wake up. The greatest analogy in the world, the caterpillar forms a cocoon around itself, love. And what comes out? A butterfly. That's the other body. But you can't see it. We only see the caterpillars. I've got a caterpillar-looking body, you've got one, but inside us all is the butterfly body, the spiritual body that we can't see yet. But Jesus knew he had it. That was the transfiguration. That was his spiritual body. Simply, he was more in that than the physical, and the boys saw it for a little while. So that was the sacrificial lamb stuff going on there. That's a Jewish overlay, and it's his words that save you. And then Matthew says this bit about the forgiveness of sins once, the blood stuff. They shouldn't teach that. They're missing the emphasis. The emphasis is on his words. Understand his words and become like him. His blood won't do anything for you. His words will. You look at it this way. If someone said to you, this guy Jesus lived, he was murdered by the Jews and they nailed him to a cross. He was apparently a really good person, a son of God. And but if you believe in his blood cleansing you of your sins, you'll go to heaven. Oh, great. Oh, well, okay, I'll believe in that. Oh, I got to go now. I've just got to go and rob a bank and kill some enemies. You see? Saying that to someone doesn't give them the instructions on how to behave, how to think, how to treat others. There's no instructions there. The death on the cross was about the death of the physical body, and then he left in his spiritual body. It's quite simple. It's not complicated, but they've made it that way because they've entangled it all up, and they've messed it up, and they've distorted it. But once you see this clearly for yourself, think about this logically for yourself, then it's logic, it's intelligent, but it's supernatural. He's in a spiritual body, he's gone. He's not coming back, he's gone. And he said, follow me to where I've gone by studying my words, understanding them, and let them sink into you to help clean you, winnow you of your sins. That's the cornerstone. He says, if whomever I alight upon, the cornerstone, on the cornerstone, I will winnow you of your sins and break apart the false identity to reveal your true spiritual identity. That's what the cornerstone does. He, being the cornerstone, alights upon you, winnows you of your sins, and reveals your true spiritual identity. See, you have to become without sin to be spiritual. You have to stop doing evil to be spiritual. He achieved that. Buddha achieved that. And they said, you can too. I've overcome the world. You can too. You can do this. Oh no, it's too hard. People hurt me. I want to hurt them back. What does Jesus say? Love your enemies. What does Buddha say? No, don't do that. Bad karma. We have to accept that as lights in the world of spirituality, we can't always, help children who are violent. We can try to help reduce their violence and things like that, but we can't become like that. So, so that's the word, the covenant. It really means your disposition, your new character, the natural qualities of a person's character. Jesus said, I'm going to let my old fleshy body die. They're going to let him kill it, because that has a certain characteristic and certain qualities. And then you'll see me in my spiritual body. That's the new covenant. That's the new body with the new qualities of spiritual love and non-violence, which you, Peter, James, John, all the rest of them, and all of us, and he said all of us, we've all got it in us. It doesn't matter whether you're a Jew or Christian, Hindu, Buddhist, atheist, Sikh, Muslim, it doesn't matter. As long as you've got the qualities of love and non-violence as the two main stones to stand on, left foot, right foot, stand on love and non-violence. With those two rocks under your feet, all the rest comes from that. Everything good comes from love. The 8 characteristics as an octave. Think of the term octave. Love, compassion, forgiveness, non-violence, equanimity, generosity, spiritual truth. Reach out and help those who have fallen down. If you do all those things, you'll become what Buddha might call selfless. Not selfish, selfless. Full of love, moving out to everyone, so you become a bridge from heaven to earth. And like St. Christopher, who carried people across the dangerous river to yonder shore, you'll become like him. You'll become a bridge. Half the bridge is made of your physical body, which dies, it's connected to the earth. The other half of the bridge is your spiritual body, connected to heaven. If you connect, you have to clean yourself, clean your mind. Follow the words, understand the words, look at the words, learn the words, study the words, and let them go in and transform you and become connected to the inner, the treasure hidden in the field is the way Jesus calls it. So just another beautiful term. The treasure hidden in the field. The field of what? The field of dirt, the field of flesh and blood and bones. It's all dirt, it's all earth, it's the field. The treasure's hidden in the field, you've got to find it. How do I find it? Well, Jesus gives you the instructions, and Buddha too. Love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you. Don't condemn, don't judge. You know, this sort of thing. We judge bad actions. We can condemn evil actions and evil things, so stop doing that. We've got to condemn that. But what he's talking about in condemning and judging, where you completely wipe out that person's chance of ever being saved, if you do that, you're going against a loving creator who loves that child and wants that child to be saved. You see, so you're going against your own beautiful loving creator, and we can't do that. We can only condemn the actions and those sorts of things. Anyway, so that's an interesting one about the word covenant, isn't it? It's being wrongly taught. They say it's a legal document or something like this. All this sort of rubbish. It's actually, it means a new disposition, a new way of life. But it's not only that, it's the natural qualities of a person's character. When you're a spiritual child, you're naturally going to be only love. Even though the world doesn't change, you do. So therefore the world does change a little bit, because you're no longer a problem. You're not going to start a war. You're not going to join the army or the navy or the air force. I tell every young person I know, never join those things. They're evil. Don't join them. Don't be involved in war. Don't be trained to kill other people like that. Drop bombs, fly drones. That's pure satanic evil. Satan loves that industry. So this teaching that Jesus gave, this is number 4, that we have 2 different bodies with us now, has been perverted and destroyed by the Jewish Christian churches. Our spiritual body only needs the loving spiritual life force of our loving spiritual creator to have life, while our earthly body of flesh needs earthly foods, liquids and gases to have life. So this is the teaching about we have 2 bodies, following on from the blood on the cross business, where it's his words. And the covenant is that he's appearing to the disciples in his spiritual body the same day, which would have been Friday night probably, the same day they saw him physically dead, body died, he appeared to them in another body. That's the new covenant, the other body. That's the new thing we all have to strive for. Become spiritual now, try to find this feeling of this other body, because it's a feeling. And then the mind changes into love and non-violence and peace, And then if enough of us do it, we can bring a massive shift in the consciousness of the world. But if one piece of the jigsaw puzzle doesn't do it, no one else can do that piece. So you have to be the piece of the jigsaw puzzle of at times that is a piece of love and peace. Then you're not a problem, you're part of the solution. Anyway, so here we go about the two bodies. So they've destroyed that as well, you see. This is another perversion that comes in on top of Jesus' original meaning. So our earthly bodies, we need foods, liquids and gases to have life, whereas the spiritual body only needs a loving spiritual life force. They wrongly teach that our body of flesh is the only body we have with us and will rise again from the earth, and say that is what happened to Jesus, but they are misleading everyone. Jesus taught, there shall be two in a single bed. One will be taken to be near to someone. One will be redundant and sent forth, no longer needed, of no more use. Two women will be grinding at one millstone. One will be taken to be near to someone. The word's missing. One will be redundant and sent forth. It's of no use anymore. He gives two other such examples, and the disciples ask, where have they gone, Lord? Where have they gone? These two. In the one bed, on the one millstone. You got to remember, women in their home kitchen had a little millstone. Well, only one woman can grind on that little millstone. But Jesus is saying there's two there. There's two in the single bed. There's two in the field. There's two on a couch. Only one answer is left in the Bible. They took the other one out, deliberately. Which is, the bodies of flesh will be where the vultures gather. Where have they gone, Lord? The bodies of flesh, the corpses, will be where the vultures gather. The dead bodies will be nothing but food for the vultures. That's where that one's gone, that was grinding at the millstone. The woman's dead body of flesh, you may as well feed it to the vultures. It's redundant, it's useless, it's of no use anymore. It's sent forth. But there's no answer about where's the other body? Where's the other one gone? Very cunning. He is saying our bodies of flesh are nothing more than food for vultures once dead. But the other answer has been deliberately removed as to where the other body of spirit has gone to be near to someone. It was probably something like this. This is in the book I wrote, The Gospels of Jesus Unplugged. It's published around the world. I had to put this in because they've taken it out. So I've done my best to think of how Jesus would have said this. It was probably something like this. So where's the other body? The body of the spirit, because that's what he's saying in this thing. There are two in a single bed. Physical body, spiritual body. Two women grinding at a millstone. Physical body, spiritual body. Two in a field, physical, spiritual. Two on a couch, physical, spiritual. Where have they gone, Lord? They're both gone. The body of the spirit is where the eagles fly. I put that in because the word, in the Greek word for eagle, could also mean vulture sort of thing, carrion bird. But I thought that's a good play on his own words, that feed the dead body of your flesh to the vultures. There's no life in it. It's worth nothing anymore. It's redundant. Send it forth. It's useless. But the body of the spirit is where the eagles fly. Way up high. Heaven. In the heavenly spiritual world of love. To return to be near to a spiritual creator and source of our true spiritual life. I mean, it makes fairly good sense, doesn't it? You've got two bodies, Jesus says. One's spiritual, one's earth. What happens to the earth body? It returns to the earth. You may as well feed it to the vultures. Burn it, whatever. Cremate it, stick it in the ground. It's all only earth anyway now. The other body that was with it, like water in a vase. Remember that, your spirit's like water in a vase. They seem to be the one thing if you look at it from the outside, but there's water inside the vase. The water, or the spirit, where does that go? Well, that must go to the source of the spirit. And it's not the earth. That's dirt, calcium, bones, copper, whatever. Silica, blood, water, gases, potatoes, pumpkin. The source of your spirit must go back to the source of your spirit. And Jesus says that source is this divine, loving, spiritual creator who's only love. And that's why he impressed so much. You must be a pacifist Christian. Get out of the army, the navy, the air force right now. If you're a Christian, drop it. Go home. Get another job. And every single Christian Jewish church in the world has to stop teaching children you can go to war. It's okay with Jesus and God. You've got to stop teaching that filthy lie. That's a Jewish way of thinking. It's not the way of Jesus. I got really upset when I started investigating this a few years ago because I hadn't bothered looking into the problem, why it was like this. But once I saw it, I thought, why are you still teaching this filth and slander about Jesus and the loving spiritual creator? You're distorting, confusing, perverting, and slandering Jesus and the loving source of our spiritual life. I'm not perfect in spirit and love, but I strive to be because I know that's the answer. So there you go. So that's what they destroyed, you see. Oh no, only your body of flesh is going to rise up again from the dead miraculously. Jesus is saying here, you don't need it. There's nothing in it. It's dead. Feed it to the vultures. There's nothing in it. It's the other body that lives on. That's the one you have to have ready. That's the clean water in the vase. The clean dirt in the cup. Not the clean dirt, sorry. Cleaning the dirt out of the inside of the cup is what I meant to say. That's what he said. It's that water in your body. Your physical body has a spiritual body with it. That has to be clean. Your body's is dirty anyway. It's full of gases. We know what they smell like when they come out one end. And, burping and all this sort of stuff. And eventually it rots and it stinks. That's not who you are. That's just a vessel holding spirit. But the spirit is a living body. And you can get into it right now. But you've got to be a pacifist. And you've got to look at his words and understand what they mean. Because he said that's what's going to save you. That's what's going to help you become like me. Then I'll see you there when you arrive. I'm going there now. I've got to go now, he said. To the disciples, bye. Off he went. So he left his body and left. He left his physical body. So this leads into the cover-up that appears in the Gospels about his body of flesh arising from the grave instead of his spiritual body of light. Along with him suddenly appearing in a room with the disciples and then just disappearing, we also have this very important clue in John where Jesus appears to Mary Magdalene and Mary goes to hug him. But he says this to her. So this is how the cover-up sort of had to be put in there by the boys. So Jesus says, and this is really a great clue that John leaves in there. I love John's Gospel. But he also does the red herring stuff too. Do not try to touch me, Mary. And then there's a bit added on, a bit of gobbledygook, for I have not yet ascended to heaven, whatever that means. I mean, is his body sort of still fermenting a bit or whatever, I don't know. But his dead body, forget it. Do not try to touch me, Mary. He probably really said, not for I have yet ascended to heaven. He probably really said, for I am in my spiritual body only now, Mary, and you can't hug me with your body of flesh. That's what he really was saying. But John doctored it a little bit, but the clue is there. Do not try to touch me, Mary. You can't. I'm in the other body now, and my body of flesh is dead. And it was. So Mary was still in the flesh while Jesus was now fully in his spiritual body, empowered only by the loving spiritual life force of our loving spiritual creator. And we can all achieve this if we just try and follow his words or Buddha's words. They're the two best pacifist teachers that I have. But anyway, most likely the disciples had to hide his dead body of flesh because no one would believe they saw Jesus alive in spirit and would only have to find his grave and decaying body of flesh to ridicule the disciples, call them all charlatans and liars, turning people away from the spiritual truths Jesus taught. And his teachings would have been lost forever. The disciples made a tough decision. Once Jesus appeared to them in his spiritual body, most likely Friday night, you can be pretty sure that Peter and John and Mary Magdalene, she had to show them where the grave was, the tomb. They all went secretly late at night and put the stone back and found that Jesus was there all right. His body was dead. But they saw him. He spoke to them briefly. He didn't eat anything that's been put in. They're the red herrings, put in to make you think it's body of flesh that rose, but it didn't. He tells you you've got two bodies. He tells you one of them feed it to the vultures when it's dead. His body's the same. Dead body, flesh. Don't worry about it. It's gone. It's the earth. So that's most likely what happened there. And of course they teach this idea that you've only got the body of flesh. So what happens then? Well, you're not going to look for your spiritual body, are you? You can still be good though with your body of flesh, of course. But the goodness you have without realising it is coming out of your spiritual body, which will leave your physical body. And only when we die will we suddenly realise, oh, what's my body doing lying on the floor there? How come I'm looking at that? Well, you're in your spiritual body. Many people who have these near-death experiences, they often say that. I was looking at my body lying there, I was sitting there, I thought, is that me? That's me. What am I doing down there? So the spirit's left, and then they come back in. There's many very genuine accounts of that, genuine accounts. I don't need to look at those a lot because Jesus says it here, and I believe it. So I totally believe it. We have two bodies. So all the apocalyptic sayings, so this is number 6, this is another entanglement. All the apocalyptic sayings in the Gospels attributed to Jesus are false, as is the book of Revelation. An apocalyptic Jew has placed these into the mouth of Jesus to service his own agenda, to paint Jesus as the Messiah in Daniel and Revelation, coming on the clouds at the destruction of the world, which he and his God will cause. Matthew is the main ringleader of this, and possibly the only one of the 4 originally, but his apocalyptic references about Jesus are shared in the other Gospels to different extents. As we know, they often copied from each other's works. So it would be easy to see how Matthew's many references to the Old Jewish Testament linking Jesus to the two-headed God Yahweh and the apocalyptic book of Daniel would help Matthew to superimpose his own agenda onto Jesus as an apocalyptic Messiah. That's how Matthew paints him, for his own agenda. Then he just added some apocalyptic sayings, attributing them to Jesus, talking about how he is coming back on the clouds, as in the book of Daniel, because that was the particular way Matthew decided to present Jesus to the Jews. It may well have been his own mistaken belief. A very simple example of how this has been distorted and perverted by the writers is seen in Matthew. He has Jesus saying, "Truly I say to you, there are some of you standing here who will not taste death until you see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom." Now Matthew's distorted that. Of course, everyone there did in fact die. They did taste death. They all died and Jesus hadn't returned. Before Jesus was supposedly coming again, according to Matthew, saying that this is what Jesus said, I'll be back. I'll be back. Before some of you die, I'll be back. I'm coming back on the clouds. But he didn't. They all died. And 2,000 years later, he still hasn't come back because he's over there on the yonder shore, waiting for us to come across. But the Greek translation has been doctored because the Greek word for coming can also mean going. It's a dualistic word. It can be used for either. So Jesus knew the Jews would eventually soon kill him for contradicting the two-headed God Yahweh. And he was simply telling them that he would soon be killed before many of them died. And he will then go, not come, go to the heavenly spiritual world in his spiritual body. You can see how this is doctored to take you away from the truth that you've got two bodies. One of them's going to live on, one's going to die. That's the earth one, and you won't even be in that anymore. You won't feel any pain from it either if you've got a lot of pain. And I pray for you if you have. It's hard to deal with pain, but you'll be out of it anyway. And but the idea is to be ready to get out of it by leading a good life, of course, of love, etc. But you've got to move into the high level of people like Jesus and Buddha, the clear light mind. You've got to aim for that. You've got to try. Alter your lifestyle, alter where you live, get out of the big cities, get into the countryside, be more human, divest yourself of the connections to Facebook and Instagram and computers and all this stuff. Move back into being human. Be like the Amish in America with horses and carts. God bless the Amish, leaders in the world. So that's Matthew, and he's distorted that. He's deliberately changed the word. Jesus didn't say he was coming, he said he was going. Matthew changed it. And the others, and it's all been copied. You see, that's the thing. See, one changes it, and someone may have had the correct one, but they've aligned them. They've made them all the same. And also, this fits the storyline they want you to have. If everyone becomes like Jesus, you don't need a pope. You don't need the head of this or head of that or the hierarchy, cardinals, bishops, blah, blah, blah. You don't need it. We just all should be the same and help each other become awakened to this spiritual teachings contained inside Jesus' words, his instructions on how to live, how to think, how to talk, how to speak, how to help others. Don't worship money and stuff like that. It's all there. The instruction booklet, the Gospels, 5 of them. Remember Thomas, don't forget Thomas. Another distortion to get you to wait for Jesus to return and save you when Jesus already said, "He who listens to my words and understands them will be saved from death." I know so many Christians who are waiting for Jesus to come back, praying for Jesus to come back. They're wasting their time. They should be concentrating on his words, studying them and talking about how can I be more forgiving? How can I care about the poor more? How can I be less interested in, less worshipping of money? They should look at his words because these words will awaken them to become spiritual, to go to heaven, to the heavenly spiritual world. But they've got to go in their spiritual body, waiting for him to come back. It's been 2,000 years. Tick, 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 tick. The last words in the Gospel of John, spoken by Jesus, the last words in one of the four Gospels, follow me. Not, I'll be back. No, he didn't say the last words in John are, follow me to where I've gone. How do we follow you? He who listens to my words and understands them will be saved from death. That's how you follow me. Look at my words. We only need his words to awaken our true identity as spiritual children of our loving spiritual creator, filled with her loving or his loving spiritual life force. His words instruct us on how to behave as a spiritual child of love and non-violence, and we just have to be transformed by them and experience the reality of this wonderful awakening that he himself underwent, and Buddha. From the Pope to a simple cleaner, whoever practices his way of spiritual love will all be equal, as fully awakened spiritual children of our loving spiritual creator in the heavenly spiritual world of love or nirvana. We're all the same there, as far as I understand it. We're children of love. But with a unique identity, expressing it each in a slightly different way, which is, how beautiful is that? Matthew also deliberately distorts the saying about the net cast into the sea. Now, this is a really classic example to prove to you, and this is proof about the way they've distorted Jesus' teachings. That's why they had to destroy the Gospel of Thomas, because there was too much truth in it. Matthew also deliberately distorts the saying about the net cast into the sea. We know this because the original is in the Gospel of Thomas, which they tried to destroy so the distortions they created could dominate the way they presented Jesus and the loving spiritual creator. This is the correct teaching of Jesus found in Thomas. Now this is the original correct which Matthew distorted, and you'll see it here. Jesus said, this is in Thomas, a man is like a wise fisherman who cast his net into the sea. He drew it up from the sea full of small fish. Among them he found a large good fish. The wise fisherman then threw all the small fish into the sea. He chose the large fish without difficulty. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. He's saying there to you and me, if you understand what I'm saying here, you'll get this. If you listen to these words, if you hear these words properly, understand their meaning, you'll get it. He who has ears to hear. Are you listening correctly to what I'm saying? Here Jesus is explaining we all have one true, primary and heavenly, eternal, spiritual identity and body, which is the one good big fish we must all find. But it is mixed in with many other possible inferior identities we may create for ourselves as our personas. But when we find our true spiritual identity amongst all the other potential identities based only on our limited knowledge, possessions, position in society or profession, formed from our earthly mind and body of flesh. So once we find our true spiritual identity and awaken to it, we can dispense with all of these other little things we thought we were, as they are insignificant compared to our one true spiritual identity of love. You can't beat love. Nothing's as great as love. But without knowing you are a spiritual child of great love, you may never let go of the little inferior fish. Vladimir Putin, Netanyahu, the Israeli army, the Russian army, Hamas, on and on and on. The little people, little personas. They appear violently, massively destructive and dominating. But from a spiritual perspective, they'll be lucky if they've got a small glowing ember in their spiritual body at the moment, covered in filth and darkness and murder, based on their body of flesh, and their body of flesh dies, so does that identity. And then they're revealed before the divine loving one in their spiritual body covered in stinking filth. That's when they'll understand what they really did. Too late. You're going to have a bit of a lesson there. So Matthew deliberately distorts this saying. So here's Jesus saying, lots of fish, go for the one good, great fish. That's the one you want to keep. You don't need the others. You don't need to be, I'm a specialist. I know everything. I'm a doctor. As many have told me, you don't know what you're talking about, your illness. I'm the person who's sick. I think I know a little bit about my illness thing. No, you don't. I'm the doctor. There's arrogance. It's all over the place. Vladimir Putin, all that stuff, all ego stuff. Matthew deliberately distorts this saying to fit his own apocalyptic agenda, as we see here, by changing some key words and then adding extra words onto the ending. So he's taken this and he's altered the words, altered the meaning. There is a general sort of meaning there, but he's shifted it and perverted it and distorted it to fit his own agenda, the apocalyptic agenda. Jesus is the Messiah on the clouds in Daniel. Jesus was never said any of that stuff. Never. It's all been put onto him. So this is what Matthew's version is. The first one's about a man finding something, keeping it, and throwing away all these other things. He's found something great. Jesus is saying about, Chris, you've got to find your spiritual identity. You don't need these other identities. You were a great gardener, you were whatever, great, whatever. You're a pop star or something like that. That's not your true identity. So these little things that we have in this world, a carpenter, an engineer, a cleaner, whatever, a mother or father, there's another identity. So in the first one, it's on target. You've got to become awakened. You've got to become spiritual. You're only going to get to heaven if you're spiritual. Get into your spiritual body. Find the one big good fish. This is Matthew's version. Jesus said, once again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net that was let down into the sea and caught all kinds of fish. When it was full, they pulled it up on the shore. Then they sat down and collected the good fish in baskets, but threw the bad away. Now so he's already distorted it, and then he adds this on. This is how it will be at the end of the age. The angels will come and separate the wicked from the righteous and throw them into the blazing furnace, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. He's added all that on. Matthew's made that up. Jesus never said that. If you know Jesus, you'll know he never said that. That's the Jewish stuff. That's the Jewish Yahweh stuff. That's Daniel. That's the book of Daniel. That's the Jewish religion overlaid on top of Jesus, destroying his original little parable analogy. The wise man who takes the great good fish to keep, but gets rid of all the little things, the little personalities, whatever, little identities, becomes a spiritual, awoken child of the loving Creator. That's the original message. the original words. Matthew's perverted it, distorted it, and he's always banging on about Jesus is coming back on the clouds to just in Revelation to destroy the world. This is how Matthew distorted the original saying and message of Jesus about personal spiritual awakening in the Thomas original version and turned it into an apocalyptic overlay put onto Jesus. Firstly, Matthew changes the direction of the teaching from being about a man's personal choices in life to become a spiritual, the good big fish, one big fish. That's the original direction. Jesus is directing it at you and me. Personal instruction. You've got to find this, Chris, this one big fish. Stop being, thinking you're the greatest gardener in the world. Something like that. That's a little thing. So that's the first thing Matthew does. He distorts the direction. So it goes from being a message of Jesus to personally find this beautiful one thing inside yourself. And he turned it into an apocalyptic overlay put onto Jesus. So he changes the direction from personal choices in life to wake up to be spiritual, the one good spiritual identity that you have inside you right now that just needs to come alive, the butterfly. That's in Thomas. He changes that to the focus is on the kingdom of heaven. Sort of connected. You got to be spiritual to get into heaven. So the focus shifts from a man, you and me, personal development, to the kingdom of heaven. It's not so personal anymore. Then he changes the types of fish from one large good fish and other less important little fish. Suddenly that changes to good and bad fish. And it's not one fisherman pulling up the net and finding one good fish. He alters it. Why does he say they? We'll read on. He then describes what happens to the good and the bad fish at the apocalypse. In it comes. In comes his agenda. The apocalyptic Jew, that's Matthew. Jesus was not an apocalyptic Jew. I know Bart Ehrman says he is, but Bart's wrong. Sorry, Bart, you're wrong. He never said any of this rubbish. All good fish are saved to heaven, while all bad fish are thrown into hell by the angels of God to suffer. They, the angels. It's not in the original teaching at all. Matthew's made that up for his apocalyptic agenda, and it slanders Jesus. This is a stunning display of how the true teachings of Jesus' main message about us all having to search within ourselves, find and awaken into our good, true spiritual identity, being perverted and distorted into a threatening apocalypse scenario with God sending angels to throw bad children into hell. This is the Godhead of War of the two-headed God Yahweh of the Jews. This is a cunning, devious slander. This is trying to take you to worship Yahweh, the Yahweh, Jew God, two-headed God. That's not the God of Jesus. I'm sorry. Half of Yahweh's love. So if you want to worship half Yahweh, Yahweh number 2, do so. But the trouble is, which parts are Yahweh 1 and 2? I mean, some are really obvious, but others are more subtle. Don't go there. There's a snake swimming in that Jewish billabong. So there you have it, you see. So Jesus never said this. He was an awakened spiritual child of our loving spiritual creator who cannot harm any of her children, just like Jesus can harm no one, for they are only love, light, and spiritual truth. That's the divine loving source of our life, he, she, creator. And Jesus they can't hurt anyone because they're only love. The entire mind of God, you would say, is only love. If you love someone, really love them, not only will you never hurt them, certainly not deliberately, you'll never do it. You'll even die for them. And that's Jesus on the cross, of course, dying for us to let us know you've got another spiritual body in your body of flesh. Wake up. Get into it quick before your body dies. He gave up his physical body to tell us you have another body. He briefly showed it to the disciples and he left. once you see this logically, it'll all make sense and all fall into place. Stop reading the Jewish religion until you're stuck with Jesus and Buddha for 10 or 20 years. Then you can look at it again if you want to. There's some good stuff in there. There's good stuff in the Quran. There's good stuff in the Sikh tradition, in their prophets and things. That's all over the place, love. In the Hindu tradition, it's all over the place, love. Jesus has a beautiful dynamic, though, and I'm really upset at the way it's been mangled and perverted. So Jesus never said that. So what did he teach? Well, what he did teach about himself and our loving Creator's intentions was, I've not come to judge the world, but to save the world. I've not come to judge the world, but to save the world. He represents the loving Creator. Loving Creator doesn't judge, but saves. There's the reaping what you sow spiritual law, and we all have to cross that river. It's like a river between us and heaven. That's the spiritual law of reaping what you sow. Jesus could walk across, and all saintly people can walk across in their spiritual body. But if you're covered yourself in stinking, rotten death and murder and filth, like Vladimir Putin and the Russian army and the Israeli army and Netanyahu and Hamas and all the other murderers, you try to walk across that river and you're going to sink. Then you'll be washed downstream and you'll be cleansed for however many 100 years it takes. So that's what he taught. I've not come to judge the world, but to save the world. Same as the divine loving Creator. Only loves you. I came to seek and save those who are lost. He doesn't say, I came to throw the bad people into hell. He says, I came to seek and save those who are lost, who are doing evil things. I'm going to try to save them, as the loving Creator tries to save them. If Netanyahu and Putin and all these other crackpots want to murder and kill, and the whole Russian army, the whole Israeli army, and Hamas, all of them murdering and killing, that's their choice. The divine loving one won't touch them, won't throw them into hell. Jesus won't either. They're automatically causing karmic consequences. They will be in hell because they caused the hell for others while they were here. They didn't move into their spiritual body. They went into the wrong identity, one they made up. So there you go. He's not going to throw them into hell as Matthew slanders him and our loving spiritual Creator, replacing him with the two-headed God of the Jews, with one body and a Godhead of brutal war and death and a Godhead of love and life, a two-faced God. That is Yahweh. Yahweh's a two-faced God. Simple as that. One body, two heads. Now the book of Revelation, this is the fifth thing that's the entanglement. The book of Revelation is the Old Testament book of Daniel. An apocalyptic Jew who hates Jesus and the loving spiritual Creator has altered and dumped Jesus and the divine loving Creator in the middle of a violent and evil event that they both supposedly create to cause massive death and suffering, condemning children all over this earth world who do not believe in them and are doing evil things. So Jesus and this God are going to come in the clouds and they're going to cause suffering. They're going to cause it. And get this, it is pure slander and a clever ruse placed by someone who wanted to destroy the nexus, the connection to the divine loving spiritual life force and heavenly Creator that Jesus was at one with, and slander Jesus himself and the loving Creator at the same time. This book of Daniel is an apocalyptic Jew destroying your connection, your Christian connection to God, trying to destroy it and detour you back to worship the two-headed God of the Jews. We can go to war and kill again and Jesus will bless you. See, Jesus kills here, It's a cunning and evil book. Rip it out and burn it. That's what I tell everyone. So this evil and cunning book with a weird dream sequence describes Jesus as coming on the clouds in an apocalyptic destruction where Jesus himself unleashes massive suffering on humanity. In this evil, slanderous garbage, Jesus and his Creator supposedly come to destroy all sinners. Jesus said himself, I've come to save all sinners. So there's a slander to start with. It's false, isn't it? It doesn't match. The new wine and the old wine do not match. This stinking thing coming on the clouds isn't Jesus. More like some horned thing. And then Jesus incites wars, so men kill each other. He opens another seal, and he incites people to go to war and kill each other. Jesus taught to love your enemies. They don't match the old with the new. This is a different figure on the cloud. It's not Jesus. He causes famines so people starve to death in Revelation. Jesus fed the famished people, the starving people, the hungry people, by multiplying loaves and fishes. Book of Revelation, he causes famines to starve children to death, people to death. That's not Jesus. It doesn't match. The old wine does not match the new wine. Yahweh, two-headed God, does not match singular God of love, which, if you want to say the Yahweh loving God in the Old Testament is the one that Jesus is only with, that's fine. But Jesus took it way beyond what the Jews understood about love. So he incites wars in Revelation, slander. He causes sicknesses to cause severe suffering to people. Jesus healed the sick. They don't match. The person on the clouds is not Jesus. If you're praying for that prick to come back, you're praying for Satan. He causes earthquakes and fires and burns people's skin with the scorching sun, kills creatures in the sea, and so on and so on and so on. A brutal, stinking war god, if ever there was one. This is the satanic, revengeful Yahweh war god. And Jesus is being set up as Satan and slandered by making children believe it is truly him, the Prince of Peace and Love, doing all these evil things, not a satanic war god and Satan. This is very clever, this book. It's really clever. It's sort of woven satanic war god, brutal murder, thieving, just the worst things you can think of in a human being or a spiritual being. And they've woven it into Jesus, the Prince of Peace and Love, and the God of Jesus. Very cunning book, very well written as a piece of crap. This Yahweh satanic Godhead of War is being deliberately overlaid onto the Prince of Peace and Love and the divine loving Creator. It is a very cunning and devious detour sign at the end of the Gospels to take you right back into worshipping the two-headed God of the Jews in the Old Testament. One is a brutal, evil, murdering Godhead of war and destruction and death, and Jesus is being portrayed here as the special child of this evil, murdering war god, and as being the only holy one who can bring on this devastation, suffering and murder. Dog droppings smell better than this pile of crap. Another reason why so many intelligent children leave the Jewish Christian churches. Good on you. I don't blame you. The trouble is when we leave the Jewish Christian churches, they have a lot of charities which are valuable and beautiful and based on Jesus and the loving Creator. But then they still teach this other garbage. And so you leave because you just think, I left because that's wrong. You shouldn't be teaching that. You're slandering him. Don't slander my mate. He's my mate. So we got a big problem. The apocalyptic beliefs of the Jews were adopted from the Zoroastrians in Babylon. They adopted that belief, which included a Messiah figure coming to save everyone at the end of the world. That Jewish apocalyptic stuff laid over onto Jesus, which is all false, totally wrong. He is not an Jesus is not an apocalyptic Jew. He is not. Matthew is, and the book of Revelation stuff is, but not Jesus. It's been put onto him to cover up what he was really saying. Pure love. He can't hurt anyone. Neither can the source that he is at one with, pure love. She or he can't hurt anyone. That loving life force, the creative loving life force of our spiritual life, is love. As I said earlier, if you love someone, you'll never hurt them. Not deliberately, you'll never do it. And you'll even lay down your life for them. You love them that much. You'll give up your physical life to save them. That's love. You don't hurt anyone. It's incredibly powerful. Let go of your physical body, let it die, not pick up the gun to retaliate. That's power. That's spiritual power. That's belief in heaven. Belief in life after death of the body, as Jesus taught. So this is how it's all been mangled. So this idea about the end of the world and apocalypse, well, guess what? The end of this world occurs for everyone when our material body of earth dies and we come into the presence of our loving spiritual creator in the heavenly spiritual world and universe to reap as we have sown our karma. That's when this world ends for me, when my physical body dies. And it's going to end for you when your body dies. That'll be the end of this world and this universe for you. That's the age. That's when it's coming. That's when it will happen. And it happens for all of us. But Jesus constantly says, but if you live a life of love, you'll be living out of your spirit. And the spirit does not die. Flesh gives birth to flesh, spirit gives birth to spirit. Marvel not that I tell you, you must be born again. He says it over and over and over and over. That's why I've been so upset to hear that these sort of Jewish Christian churches are teaching getting children to pray to Yahweh, a two-headed God. One of them's a violent, killing murderer. Satanic. Jesus said to the Jews, you are children of your father the devil. He was a murderer and a liar from the start, and the lusts and desires of him you do. He's talking about the war god. You got to understand, Jesus couldn't speak too openly. As soon as he said something like I'm saying, they would have killed him straight away, stoned him to death. He's slandering their war god, who's Yahweh, but also the God of love, Yahweh. No. Jesus understood the crap that was going on, that was going down. He understood the cunning, devious way they'd messed it up. He tried to get them out of it. Love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you. They didn't want to let go of that war god, and they still don't want it. And if Christians can't see what the Jews are about at the moment, you'll never see it. You'll never understand Yahweh, who Yahweh really is. Just look at what the Jews are doing in Gaza and the West Bank. And Hamas were evil too. Sure, and Putin's evil too. But look at the Jews. You see them on YouTube dancing in the streets saying, Yahweh's giving us back the West Bank and Gaza. We're going to get that too. Yahweh's going to give it to us. Yahweh's not giving it to them. They're murdering and killing and slaughtering and stealing the land, which is exactly what they did at Jericho. And guess who told them to do it? Yahweh. Not the good Yahweh, the bad one. So these are some of the entanglements that have distorted the spiritual truth Jesus gave to awaken us all to become eternal spiritual children of light and love of our loving spiritual creator while here on earth before our temporary body of flesh dies. Contact me on jcinfocus@gmail.com and abuse me if you want to. That's fine. Because if anyone abuses me in any way about I'm evil or something, you've got to provide me with a logical, intelligent understanding that makes sense. You only have to look at the book of Revelation, as I just pointed out to you. What this evil thing does coming on the clouds is the exact opposite of everything Jesus did while he was here on earth. And remember, that's just a dream sequence. It's some weird dream sequence that someone had and wrote down. They don't even know who it is. They know it's not the Gospel of John writer because the two styles are different. They know that. Even conservative theologians agree. Yeah, this Greek writing in the Revelation is different to the Greek writing in John. Quite different. They know it's a different writer. They just give it to John. They name it as John. And that's a problem because they keep leaving it in the bloody Bible, in the Gospels. Rip out the book of Revelation and stick it in the book of Daniel, cut the Bible in two, stick the old one on the bench, up on the shelf there, and let it gather dust for a few years. Just look at Jesus' words, concentrate on love. Have a look at Buddha's teachings about how to meditate and clear your mind out of evil things. Great help. Then you'll become like Jesus and Buddha, because that's what they want you to do. Interesting about Buddha too in the words, as Jesus said, the words save you. When Buddha was dying, one of his disciples was really upset close disciples, followers. And the followers said, what are we going to do when you're gone? How are we going to find our way to Nirvana? You're dying. You're leaving us. Buddha's answer was, don't worry, you have my words. Buddha and Jesus had to give us instructions to help me understand who I am and who not to be. Don't be like this, don't be like that. Be like this, think like that, act like this, don't act like that. Instructions. And the more you follow them and really follow them, and just his words, forget about the Jewish religion, for heaven's sake, cut it out of the Bible, cut it in two. I've done a YouTube video where I actually cut the Bible in two for everyone. I cut it in two to show you what to do, and I ripped the book of Revelations out. I have done a YouTube on that. Just cut it in two. It's another religion. You're not Jewish. If you're Christian, you are not Jewish. Get over it. Just stay with Jesus, right? Christ, right? Christ consciousness. Buddha consciousness, love. Just stay with him. Stop reading the Jewish religion, please. There's some stuff there that's good, but there's some really stinking evil stuff. But they're both called Yahweh. Big problem. It'll confuse you. Or it'll make you become like a Jew, and you'll kill and murder in the name of Jesus and God. Sorry, you're not killing in their names, because they don't do that. And they can't, because they're only love. And none of her children can. Okay. So, yeah, by all means, abuse me, but also, by all means, say, great. Oh, wow, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks for that. I was really confused. What you said makes great sense. Oh, wow, gee, how did you figure that out? And the answer to that question is, ever since I was a little child, I've only heard Jesus' words and only seen Jesus' words. Something from like a force from heaven guided me to make sure I zeroed in only on his words. I only ever saw his words. Even from a little child, I remember, I just thought of him as love and non-violence. Okay, I don't know how young I was, 6, 7, I don't know. But that's all I ever saw him as. And I never cared about the Jewish religion, the Old Testament. I thought it's a waste of time. Why are you reading that? That's all about him, love and non-violence, love and non-violence. And of course, therefore, the source of his spiritual life, and ours and yours, mine and yours, is love and non-violence. That's not the Jewish religion, is it? Be honest with yourself. Use your own brain. Use your own mind. That's why the loving one sort of has given you a spiritual brain, a spiritual mind, I guess. You've got an earthly brain, but you need your spiritual mind working to see the darkness, the evil, the murder at Jericho. Just look up, go to the book of Joshua and read what happened, what they did at Jericho. And then ask yourself, Yahweh sent an angel to tell them to go and murder everyone, steal all the gold and silver, burn the place to the ground, and steal the land. And these Jewish Christians think Jesus is God, as opposed to Jesus is more like a child of God, as we all are. Jesus was with God, so Jesus and God said to do that. I've had people tell me that. I've just thought, wow, you don't even know Jesus at all. You know, the Jewish Yahweh God who kills and murders and slaughters and loves, the two-headed God. Okay, well that's about it. I'll leave it there. Long video. Never mind. I've enjoyed doing it. I doubt anyone's going to watch it to the end. You've got better things to do. I'll put a short one on as well, maybe. Jesus is only love. The source of Jesus is only love. It's not the two-headed God of the Jews in the Old Testament, the old wine. Stop mixing the new wine with the old wine. Rip the book of Revelations out of the Bible and burn it. If you just look at what I've said, think about this for yourself. Use your own brain. Use your own mind. Be logical and intelligent. And it's still supernatural. Jesus left in a spiritual body. Wow. I got to believe in heaven I can't see it, and I believe Jesus had a spiritual body and he left in it. You know, a modern scientist or medical person go, oh, you can't prove, that's impossible. You know, physical bodies, we don't have spiritual bodies, something like that. I understand when they say a physical body can't rise again from the dead, scientists say that. I agree with that, because Jesus said that himself. Once it's dead, feed it to the vultures. It's sent forth. It's redundant. It's useless. So it's finished its job. It gave you time to become spiritual. That's what your body of flesh is all about. And then we use the body of flesh to express the divine love from our spiritual body, which is connected to heaven and the heavenly love of the divine loving Creator. And then we express it through the spiritual body. So yeah, I'll send you a PDF file if you want to print it. You're welcome to print all this. Just if I send you a PDF file, you won't have me talking, rambling on. It'd be much quicker to just read it. But I'm happy to send anyone a PDF file, and you can use it free of charge, all that sort of stuff. Print it, whatever you want to do with it. Yep. So there you go. That was a bit long, that wasn't it? Never mind. I've been in a lot of pain lately, so whenever I tend to talk about Jesus, it's funny how it affects the pain. The pain's it's a neurotoxic poisoning from a fungus in the lungs, but I'm able to focus more on my spirit, I guess, and I talk through my sort of spiritual life and identity as I know Jesus as being spiritual, and the divine loving one is spiritual, and heaven is spiritual, as a spiritual universe. I don't even think it's this universe. I think it's probably another one where you can't, there's no exploding suns that can incinerate you or anything like that. So, or black holes that suck you into oblivion. That's this universe, But whenever I do these sorts of talks, a lot of, not all the time, but a lot of the time, the pain I'm in the head and stuff, the brain's being poisoned there, I'm able to really be inspired, from this sort of connection that I have, and I've always had with Jesus as love and non-violence, and therefore the divine source is herself or himself, love and non-violence. Even if you think of God, I know a lot of people hate the word God, I don't blame him. It's been misused all over the place. And a lot of Christians say, I can only say he, it's only God the Father, not allowed to say mother or she. I say, no, that's the Jewish patriarchal society. That's how they formed it and formulated it. And so they say father, or they say God, he, male. But the interesting thing about Jesus too in the Gospels, you have to remember, he never says God, he never calls God Yahweh. Never. He can't. Because he'd be talking about the other God, the two-headed God. You see? That's why he never uses that word. He just says a pronoun, father or him. It's a very personal connection, child to the parent, spiritual child to the loving spiritual creator. The spiritual life force is all we need to have that life in heaven, and now too in our spiritual body. It's there with us now. That's how Jesus healed. It flowed out of him to children from his spiritual body, which was fully awakened. And that's what he's saying we should do. How do I do it? He who listens to my words and understands them will be like me. You'll become like me. And Buddha, you have my words. You don't need me, I'm gone. Follow my words so you understand how to awaken. And the word, when Jesus says arise, that same Greek word arise means to awaken. And the word Buddha, of course, means the awakened one. See, they've awoken to the truth that they have a spiritual body that doesn't die, but it's only love. Well, how do I get into that body, Jesus, Buddha? Well, Christopher, in this dangerous dualistic world where people are going to hurt you and all the other things go wrong and you're going to suffer physical pain, the way you get into it is only be love. Because that's all that's in that body. It's quite simple, really, when you think about it. It's all in his words. I've always loved his words. See, I've been lucky. They've protected me from the Jewish religion. I had no interest in that. And the book of Revelations, I had a look at that when I was in my 20s and I thought, blimey, this is the greatest cryptic crossword in the world. What a waste of time. Shut that book. And now I realise, blimey, people take that seriously and they're teaching other children about this garbage. And that was when I got a bit angry. So I wrote the Gospels of Jesus Unplugged, which is a newer translation, a better translation of the Gospels. I've cut out some of the old wine overloads, basically. And the language I use is loving spiritual creator, not God the Father and that sort of stuff. So it's a little bit more universal. And I've done the teachings of Jesus Unplugged, which includes points like these. Haven't published it yet, but I've got some copies. If you want one, let me know. I'll send you one. Okay. Well, I always have to say, because this can be quite upsetting to some people or disturbing or something, don't worry, it's just my belief. Follow your own way to heaven, paradise, nirvana. But I think you may agree with me. Only good people go to paradise, nirvana, heaven. Who is a good person? Someone who loves. We all know, gee, they're a lovely person. They're really lovely. They're so kind. A good, loving person goes to heaven. Jesus and Buddha help you to become that, and to move out of the dualistic. Let's go and kill some Israeli people because they're attacking us all the time, so I must go and kill 1,200. Then the Jews go, let's go and kill 70 to 100,000 of them in retaliation, murder them. None of them are in their spiritual body. They're just in the flesh, the vase. All physical bodies die, rot and stink. They're in the wrong body. They're worshipping death. How sad. All we can do is warn them. They're going to hell if they keep that up. Okay, let's pray for peace in the world and just do what you can. I know it's difficult. I know it's difficult for me in my life at times. So I just try to do what little good I can. And even though I've been quite ill, I still attempt to think of her and try to be spiritual as best I can. Follow your own way to heaven, but it has to involve both feet planted on love, other foot planted on non-violence. No one will be able to push you over then. They might cause your spirit to leave your body. That happens. They kill your horse, they kill your body, put you on a cross or something, shoot you. But a bullet can only kill a physical thing. It's sin that damages the spiritual body. And only I can do that to myself. Get it? Bye.